This is Wrestling with Ideas.
When Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff joined TNA, what was your first initial reaction when you heard that they were joining the company?
I remember it very clearly. We were sitting there in the AO house after a TV taping, and then it came out, like, Hogan and Bischoff, and I remember thinking that was going to be great. Like, I really believed that, like, this was going to be which is what obviously I thought was obviously what Dixie obviously thought too. And I really did think, like, this is going to be the thing that, I'm going to be part of a new, head-to-head kind of thing. I really thought that it could happen and obviously I was younger and more naive, but as well, you have to remember during that time period when that deal went down, these are the same guys, and I won't name who, but big, like, the most iconic names in the business had all buried TNA and said, like, what is TNA? Like, I've never even heard of that. Like, that's, that place is bullshit. And then suddenly, TNA was doing, like, 2 million viewers on Spike. Like, I remember having a meeting in 2009 where Terry Taylor stood up in front of all the talent and said, hey, like, we're the highest rated show on Spike. We're averaging, like, a 1.4 or 1.5 or something, and the company is making profit. Like, everything's heading in the right direction, so everyone keep doing what you're doing. Like, this is going great. Just to make, by comparison, they're only the height of TNA on Spike in 2009 is only a few points off what SmackDown does now. So that's obviously where that's where we were at. So it wasn't like it wasn't like a big pipe dream like a lot of people now like to use revisionist history and say, like, oh God, how think that they had a chance? But they weren't that far off SmackDown ratings at that point. So a lot of us were starting to think, like, with a few more tweaks here and there, and like if we could maybe get out of Orlando and maybe get some arenas for TV and a few things like that, maybe we can really become like the solid number two. Like, we were already number two, like, easily, but maybe we can be like a competitive number two. And that's obviously what Hogan and Bischoff and their people thought, along with the fact that, hey, there's money to be made, because, like, let's face it, like, that's what they were all about, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the thing, is that there was money there at that time, and it's just a shame that no one's ever going to really know the full ins and outs of, like, what happened there. But I think that from my point of view as a talent who was, like, up and coming at that time, I think a lot of guys like me were very, like, disappointed with their approach to our show. Like, they treated a lot of us very, like, this has nothing to do with you, like, this is all because of us. And I think that there were a lot of us, including the audience, who felt like a little bit disrespected there, because it was like, well, it was our work, not so much mine, but like the Bobby Roodes and the James Storms and the AJs and Joes and stuff like that, who felt a little bit disrespected and the audience, because I think it was a thing where they basically all made out like we were just lucky to be where we were at, and now we're going to take over, and now you just watch, like, now you're going to be part of something really special, and and a lot of the stuff was just rehashed ideas. And I like Eric. I have respect for Eric. We didn't always get along then, but I was very young and dumb and didn't handle myself as well as I should have. I didn't really know what to do when someone wasn't really sort of buying what I was selling as a boss, because I'd only been used to Dixie, who was very positive towards me. So I probably could have been more proactive in the beginning, but I think, like, as time went on, I started to develop a better understanding of how Eric operated. And Hulk, when he finally showed some interest in me when he saw the reactions I got in the UK. Like, when I came out and got arguably the biggest reaction of the night in Manchester and stuff in, like, 13, I think, like, that was the first time where he started really paying attention to what I was doing and, like, pulling me aside and going, hey, you should do this and think about this, and this is going great.
Mm-hmm.
So I think their intentions were good, but unfortunately, like, I don't know. I'm sure that everyone's going to have their own version of it, but my impression of the talent was that they were happy to take, their big paydays and weren't necessarily that concerned about the long-term future of the company.
Mm-hmm. And is there any sort of backstage situations that you would say that really stood out to you, saying these guys that are now here are, they're just kind of looking for the paycheck or whatever?
No, I don't think so. They just really kept to themselves. I think in the beginning that was a lot of it, was that I don't know whether it's just that Eric is not necessarily the most gregarious guy when you first get to know him. Like he's a little guarded, and I think that's a lot. We had weeks of maybe didn't get along as great as we could have in the beginning because we're kind of similar in that respect. Like it takes me a little while to like warm up to someone, and I think he was a bit like that too. So I think a lot of guys were just kind of like, what does this guy think he is? He just walks around like he owns the place. And I don't think he means to do that, but that's kind of how it came across. And then Hulk, he's such a you can't understand this about Hulk, but he's such a bigger star than anybody else that he's constantly surrounded by people. He's one of those people that he's got a team around him at all time. And it's just hard when you're that famous like a Hulk Hogan to really sort of develop relationships with people. So I think he just did what he had to do, was just show up, and he's used to everybody kind of kissing his ass. Like, and I mean that in a nice way, like, because he's Hulk Hogan. You're in the business, like that. He basically was the biggest force behind Vince McMahon in creating the modern version of it. So you're kind of standing there going like, "Hey, Hulk, like, what did you think?" Like, it's really hard to develop a serious kind of rapport with him. Mm-hmm. I remember, like, Kevin Nash once said, like, because Kevin was very good to me. Like, there's an example of a guy who will, be still super relatable and very cool and very helpful and just compassionate and articulate. So we were having a conversation once over some beers about the differences between Hulk and Austin. Not an opinionated thing, just kind of like just comparing the two and this and that. And I remember like Kev saying, I've walked through the airport with both of them. And walking through the airport with Hulk is like walking through the airport with Mickey Mouse. And I remember thinking that he made that decision to be like that larger than life like persona, and now he's no privacy, and like he always looks like Hulk Hogan when he walks out the door, like he's part of that era. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just a different era, a different breed of guy, and that's why he was, that's why he's so successful, and why he was such a big name, and that's why, unfortunately, like he lived his life in a fishbowl. So obviously, we're seeing like the negative side of that now, where your privacy is not really yours anymore when you get that famous.
Keep updated with everything going on with Wrestling with Ideas by following us on Twitter or leaving a like on the Wrestling with Ideas Facebook page. Listen to archived episodes of the show on Podbean and the Podbean app, or take a listen on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, and Player FM. We will be back to wrestle with ideas.